Hello, folks. Today, our question is 150. We're practicing our DevOps SRE interview question so that when we do get an interview, we are ready to go. So today's question, before I get to question number, actually, to give you some background, and actually before that, I need to get into a slideshow so you can see it better. So if you are new to the channel, please subscribe. That helps my channel going forward. So you might remember I did some research on LinkedIn job descriptions and came up with 15 top topics for doing our studies doing our preparations for DevOps interviews. The ones at the top, like cloud, AWS, GCP, CI/CD, are more important. The ones at the bottom, system design and containers. However, even the ones at the bottom are important because these are just the top 15. So, but when you're trying to study, focus on the top ones more than the ones at the bottom. Today's topic can actually cover two different topics in the list, CI/CD and Jenkins, and also Kubernetes. So question today is, how would you set up a Jenkins pipeline to deploy an application to a Kubernetes cluster? Explain the steps and key considerations for configuring Jenkins to handle this deployment. So what's happening? We already have a Kubernetes cluster somewhere, let's say GCP, and you have a Jenkins server set up, and you want to deploy an application onto the Kubernetes cluster using using the Jenkins servers. That's the setup. That's the question being asked here. You can read this slide for yourself. No explanation needed for that. Now get to the answer. So first of all, on your Jenkins server, you have to install some plugins, namely three. You have to have the Kubernetes plugin, you have to have the pipelines plugin, and you have to have Git plugins. Why? Because with the Kubernetes plugin, you can use tools like kubectl. With the pipeline plugin, you can actually have a pipeline. And you need a Git plugin because your code, your Docker image code or Docker compose code or whatever application code you have will sit on some kind of repository, and that code needs to be downloaded before you can use Jenkins to set up the application on the Kubernetes cluster that you already have. So how do we do this? First of all, you have to have some credentials saved in your Jenkins. These credentials are of two kinds, one for the Kubernetes cluster and one for the Docker registry, because the Docker registry where you're going to keep the image that has your application. So what you're going to do, you're going in your pipeline, Jenkins pipeline steps, you're going to first of all download the image, log into Git, and you deploy the image into the Kubernetes cluster as a pod, right? That's how we're going to do it. It could be a deployment, it could be a replica set, or it could be some sort of pipeline, but it doesn't matter. The steps here is a secret for your Docker registry, a secret for your Kubernetes. You put all your steps that you're doing. For example, let's say that you're using kubectl to deploy this application as a replica set onto the Kubernetes cluster that you already have. So these would be the steps, these three main steps: download the image from Docker, send it to create a pod out of it using your YAML files, and send it to the Kubernetes cluster that already exists. Now, some of the things to remember is, of course, you have to save your secrets onto your Jenkins cluster. You also have to remember that you have to handle your errors. So, because there are multiple steps involved, you don't want to just fail quietly. Your script, your Jenkins pipeline, should give you an exact error as to why, if any of the steps involved failed. So again, to summarize, you have to have secrets, you have to have a way to get to your Docker registry where your image lives, and you have to have a way to log into your Kubernetes cluster where you're going to deploy a YAML file that has your pod in terms of a replica set or deployment or some kind of pipeline. All right, I hope you found this useful, and I will see you in the next video. And actually, this is an example. You can take a look that I literally took a screenshot from internet. This is a Jenkins pipeline that deploys and deploys an application using KubeConfig to the cluster that you already have. Okay, if you have any questions, you can find me on LinkedIn. I will do my best to answer your direct questions. And don't forget to subscribe. I will see you in the next one.